This video was intended to inform and educate the public.
Welcome back to the Junkyard News. Thanks for tuning in. In this video, we're going to be highlighting one particular officer who authorities say, along with one mom, can't seem to separate his work from his home life. This officer with a troubled past, a past that included a 45-day suspension after pepper spraying a handcuffed suspect after he lost his temper. And what did the suspect do to deserve being pepper sprayed while handcuffed in the back of a police vehicle? He was accused of just trying to get the officer's attention and kicking the back of the police van. That's right. After repeated warnings to shut the heck up and stop kicking the door of the van, the officer lost control, lost his temper, opened the door, and ended up pepper spraying a handcuffed suspect in the face.
This video, taken by the group Peaceful Streets during South by Southwest, 25-year-old Tyrone Wilson is in the back of a police vehicle when he is heard kicking the door. He and Officer Caldwell exchange a few words, and then Officer Caldwell uses pepper spray on him.
Which again not only showed the department that this officer may have an issue controlling his temper, but as his family soon found out, he can't seem to separate his work from his home life. And that right there has got him in some hot water. So let's get into the meat of the story. I'd like to introduce you to Officer Cameron Caldwell. Officer Caldwell was forced to turn himself in and is under investigation for an alleged injury to a toddler. The Cedar Park Police Department said APD Officer Cameron Caldwell turned himself in to the Williamson County Jail on 2 injury to a minor charges stemming from an incident at his Cedar Park home. Now, APD said it is aware of the criminal investigation involving Caldwell and is cooperating with CPPD. Per standard protocol, APD said it has placed Caldwell on restrictive duty and has initiated an administrative investigation into the matter. The investigation is active and ongoing. Now, Caldwell is no stranger to letting his anger get the better of him. Like I mentioned before, in the past, Caldwell is the same police officer who pepper sprayed a handcuffed man in the face after the man was handcuffed and detained in the back of a police vehicle. Video showed Chicago native Tyrone Wilson being arrested on a misdemeanor charge of resisting arrest. Funny how that was the only charge at the time. When Caldwell opened the door and told him to stop kicking the door of the van. Moments later, the two men had another exchange of words during which Caldwell used pepper spray right in the face of the detained suspect while he was handcuffed. After that incident, Caldwell was ordered to be reviewed by the department's psychiatric department.
Oh, this is Mrs. Sigmund Fraud.
My door is always open, Sergeant.
Well, I think we ought to keep this on a professional level, don't you, Doc?
And upon any findings, may have been ordered to attend anger management and other disciplinary actions to try to get his ego and his anger in check. But unfortunately for his family, it seems like Mr. Caldwell likes to take his work home with him, and at times, at home, seems to let his temper get the better of him. Now, how did this all play out? Well, surveillance video shared by the mother of a child showed Caldwell allegedly abuse 2 children inside a bedroom, according to a Williamson County probable cause affidavit. Investigators reviewed 5 different videos from the bedroom. Investigators said the incident happened at Caldwell's home back in June. Court documents state that prosecutors do believe Caldwell, at least in one case, did then and there intentionally and knowingly cause bodily injury to a child by striking his buttocks and face with the defendant's hand and throwing the child's body onto his bed, and in another case, did then and there intentionally and knowingly cause bodily injury to a child by striking his face with the defendant's hand or striking his body by throwing a toy at him. The affidavit said the child was hit with a monster truck toy in the back after the officer lost his temper. The Austin Police Department said Caldwell has been placed once again on restricted duty per standard protocol. APT said it launched an administrative investigation into Caldwell's case. The Austin Police Department is aware of the criminal investigation ongoing against Officer Cameron Caldwell. The department claims it is cooperating with investigating agencies, the Cedar Park Police Department. So how did all this come to light regarding his home life? Well, Caldwell's partner showed police 5 videos, including one of great concern that allegedly showed Caldwell hitting and abusing one of his 2 children. The videos were recorded by a Nest camera posted in the kid's bedroom. A Nest camera is kind of like a nanny camera. In one video, a 2-year-old child is seen trying to protect himself from his father before Caldwell ends up picking him up, violently hits him on his backside, then strikes him 8 times before dropping him to the ground like a sack of potatoes. The child is seen crying hysterically and trying to actually crawl away from his father before Caldwell ends up picking him up again and slams him on a mattress. Caldwell then hits the toddler in the face 3 times and then throws a blanket on top of him in disgust. Now to me, this sounds like one guy who has a serious anger issue. And I have to give kudos to the mother, to his spouse, for saying enough is enough and protecting her children from what just may be a monster, from realizing what was going on, from seeing the possibility of escalation in time and saying enough is enough. I need to protect my children from this man. Because it's hard. Families of law enforcement have some serious hang-ups when it comes to this type of incident. They have serious concerns and they generally find it hard to speak up. Let me explain. You see, the difficulty for wives of police officers to report abuse stems from several interrelated factors. Number 1 has to be fear of retaliation. Because police officers have access to weapons and the knowledge of how to use them, they also have the skills and connections that could intimidate and harm anyone who even thinks about reporting any type of incident like this. There can also be a lack of trust within the system. Wives of cops may feel that the justice system is biased towards protecting their own. And why wouldn't they? They might fear that their complaints will not be taken seriously or actually be dismissed outright without any true investigation being done just to protect the blue line brothers. Now, a spouse also could fear isolation because abusive partners often isolate their victims. And this can be intensified in police families where the abuser has significant control over the victim's social interactions and movements. And there's always concerns about repercussions. A spouse may worry about the professional and personal repercussions for her husband, such as job loss or damage to his reputation, which can indirectly affect her and her kids. Not to mention the stigma or shame that is often present with these type of situations. Yeah, there is often a stigma associated with being a victim of domestic violence. And this can be heightened in law enforcement families where there is an expectation of maintaining a certain image and maintaining the thin blue line and the code of silence. Now, another troubling factor in this is often financial dependence. If a spouse is financially dependent on her husband, she may fear losing financial security if she reports the abuse. And then, of course, you have internalized beliefs. The wife may believe in the sanctity of marriage and feel a personal or cultural pressure to maintain in the relationship and keep quiet despite any type of abuse. And of course, then you have the fear of not being believed. Given the officer's status and respect in the community, the wife may fear that others will not believe her allegations and not take them seriously. And then that factors in the down the line fear of retaliation by her spouse. These factors can create a complex and often overwhelming environment that makes it challenging for the spouses of police officers to come forward and report these type of issues. And then when these issues involved the officer's child, the challenges can even be more complex. Again, retaliation, because the officers may use their authority and skills to intimidate the spouse or their child into silence. The potential for severe retaliation can be heightened when a child is involved. And there's a protective instinct. The spouse may fear immediate and direct harm to the child if the abuse is reported. The abuser's knowledge of law enforcement procedures can exasperate this fear. And then there's custody concerns. There may be a fear of losing custody of a child if the abuser manipulates the legal system, or if the reporting parent is seen as unstable or vindictive. Then, of course, there's emotional manipulation, because the abusive officer may manipulate the child or spouse emotionally, making them believe that reporting the abuse would cause more harm down the line than good. And don't forget about the stigma and shame that's associated with this type of incident. Yes, there is often a stigma associated with admitting that abuse is occurring within the family, especially one in a law enforcement background, leading to feelings of shame and embarrassment. All these factors create an environment of fear, confusion, and helplessness, making it incredibly difficult for a spouse to report potential abuse by a police officer.
Austin police have opened an administrative investigation of one of their own officers after he turned himself in to Cedar Park Police. This morning, Cameron Caldwell was booked into the Williamson County Jail on 2 injury to a child charges. Cedar Park police say it stems from an incident at a home in Cedar Park. Austin police tell us they are cooperating with the Cedar Park Police Department. Officer Caldwell is on restricted duty for APD and faces an administrative investigation, which is standard APD protocol.
Now, when Caldwell's 4-year-old son told detectives about what his father had been doing to him, he explained that his father once hurled a monster truck at his back and slapped him in the face in another incident. He also alleged that Caldwell hits him multiple times when he's in trouble and forces him to do push-ups. Now, due to this recent allegation involving Caldwell's children, the Austin Police Department said it is aware of the investigation going on their officer and will cooperate and have launched an internal review. And we'll just have to wait and see what ends up coming of it. APD, again, has placed him on restrictive duty for the time being. And at least as of right now, during this, he's most likely not going to be interacting with the public. Again, I have to give credit to his spouse. This woman just wants to protect her children, even from her partner. And that's admirable, because as we've heard and as we've seen and as I explained, it is extremely difficult for partners of law enforcement officers to speak up. But when it comes to your kids, you need to protect your children. So I commend her for speaking up and attempting to get help with this troubling situation. Thank you again for watching this video by The Junkyard News. Be careful, people, or else we could be talking and discussing a new story about you in the next one. Thanks again.
One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you.